Good morning everyone, Sage here live from the 𝐊𝐚𝐥𝐤𝐢𝐧𝐞 studios and you're watching The Opening Bell. In this show we share with you a glimpse at the Australian share market opening trade scenario along with the global and domestic drivers triggering the market momentum. And in the first segment of the show we will look at how the early morning trades panned out, taking cues from the Wall Street action overnight. And next we'll zoom our lens on the sector movements on the Australian Stock Exchange, and then in the last segment we'll take a look at the prominent newsmakers on the board. So let's get started. And the Australian share market opened higher on Tuesday after the US stocks hit record highs in choppy trades overnight. However, investors traded on a cautious note as they eyed this week's Federal Reserve policy meeting, which might signal the monetary policy outlook. The Dow Jones rose at an all-time high of 0.2% and the S&P 500 climbed at a record close of 0.25% and the Nasdaq edged slightly higher. The market may closely follow the comments by the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell on Wednesday. After a two-day policy meeting, the statement by Powell may bring clarity on the central bank's stand on its asset purchase tapering, its inflation risk assessment and interest rate future. And in the currency space, the US dollar eased as investors shifted their focus to the Fed meeting. The greenback otherwise benefits when investors look for safety. And the dollar index fell 0.3%, while the debt market remained unfazed by the possibility of an eventual tapering. Meanwhile, in the cryptocurrency market, Bitcoin surged 8.6%, while Ether climbed 5.1% and Bitcoin gained amid speculation that Amazon might accept the cryptocurrency as a payment mode. And looking at the opening trades of the ASX 200, the top performing stocks in this index were Oz Minerals and BlueScope Steel, the Australian flat product steel producer. BlueScope is all set to beat its earnings guidance, while mining company Oz Minerals reported increase in the quarterly copper production. Banking and financial service player Virgin Money UK, metals and electronics recycling company Sims and lithium producer Orocobre were other leading gainers. And meanwhile, the dairy company A2 Milk was the leading loser on the board, and the BNPL giant Afterpay and accounting software Xero also slipped. And moving on now to the next segment, we're going to glance through the ASX sectoral charter. Australian energy players Beach Energy, Santos, Origin Energy and Oil Search traded in the green zone amid the oil price uptick. And the crude oil prices edged higher on Monday, while the trade remained choppy amid concerns over a rise in COVID-19 Delta variant cases, and the losses were limited by forecasts of tighter supply this year. And the Brent crude futures rose 0.5%, while the US West Texas Intermediate crude fell by 0.2%. Now let us move on to the miners space. Heavyweight miners BHP Group, Rio Tinto and Fortescue Metals traded higher amid a bounce back witnessed in the iron ore prices. And after a 5-day decline, a recovery in China's steel margins helped Dalian and Singapore iron ore futures rebound on Monday. The most traded September iron ore on the China's Dalian Commodity Exchange ended daytime trading 0.9% higher. And meanwhile, copper prices advanced as floods in China fuelled the demand hopes when inventories were falling. Then in the yellow metal space, Newcrest Mining, Ramelius and Gold Road edged lower amid the gold price softness. Gold prices eased as investors made cautious moves ahead of the Fed meeting, and the US gold futures ended 0.1% lower. And now it's time for a short break, but please stay tuned as I'll be back with more updates for the Australian share market.
Tune in to stay updated while on the move.
We will tell you where the crypto craze has reached,
where the property market is headed next,
what the world is doing to become more environmentally friendly,
apart from tracking the daily market charter.
Be on top of the latest news and announcements
with 𝐊𝐚𝐥𝐤𝐢𝐧𝐞 TV.
Thanks for joining us, viewers. This is Sage, your host, live from the 𝐊𝐚𝐥𝐤𝐢𝐧𝐞 studio, and you're watching The Opening Bell. Moving on now to the last segment of the show, let us look at the quick highlights of the prominent ASX stocks under the spotlight during the early trades. And to begin with, Rio Tinto soared despite cutting Canadian aluminium production, and the global mining group has decided to cut the aluminium production from the BC Works smelter in Kitimat in Canada as the company failed to agree on a new collective labour agreement with a local union. The annual production will fall to 35% of the current 432,000 tonnes capacity. Then BlueScope Steel soared, all set to beat its earnings guidance, and the Australian flat product steel producer expected to record unaudited earnings before interest and tax of 1.72 billion Australian dollars for the financial year 2021 on the back of a record 1.19 billion Australian dollar earnings contribution in the second half of financial year 2021. The company also realised a stronger demand in Australia and New Zealand's markets. And next up, IGO rose on entering into an agreement to acquire 100% stake in the silver night nickel copper cobalt sulfide deposit. The acquisition is slated for a total consideration of 45 million Australian dollars. The diverse mining explorer would be forming a joint venture with Creasy Group over a portfolio of exploration tenements. And moving on now to the next newsmaker under the spotlight. Oz Minerals was the leading gainer on the board on increasing quarterly copper production, and the modern mining company clocked a 22% increase in copper production in the June 2021 quarter, making the company on track to achieve its output targets for financial year 2021. It also posted a 134 million Australian dollar cash balance with no debt. Next on the list is Temple & Webster Group, who jumped on posting a record financial year. And Australia's leading online retailer of furniture and homewares has posted a record earnings before interest, depreciation, tax and amortisation, with a jump of a massive 141% over the previous year. The sales also notched 85% higher, and the revenue per customer has also been increased by 12%. Thanks for joining us in that report. That's all for now. And it is an earning morning trade. While the market is buzzing with business updates and sectoral movements, we will be bringing more stock updates in our upcoming shows during the day. So stay tuned to 𝐊𝐶𝐞 TV for more live updates across the economy, markets and sectors. Sage signing off.